The New York Knicks have just made a serious decision with their latest move, and this has huge implications on the New York Knicks going forwards into this next season, and also shows exactly how Mike Brown and the front office are working together in a lot of ways, while also we are seeing a lot happen with Jalen Brunson and him now getting some respect from the NBA after being completely flamed by NBA 2K. And we're going to break all this down. There's a lot to go over. What's up, guys? Welcome back to Knicks Digest. It's Chris here. We're going to jump right into things as always. If you guys are part of that 62% that's not subscribed to Knicks Digest, make sure to subscribe for daily New York Knicks updates. We got a bunch of videos coming out right now. We got a lot of good stuff coming this weekend that you do not want to miss out on. All that being said, let's jump into the video. There's a lot to go over right now as the Knicks, they just made a huge move for this team's future. When Mike Brown was hired by the Knicks, it was confirmed that he, along with the help of the front office, would look for the rest of the coaching staff that's not staying on and staying over from Tom Thibodeau's staff. Now, some of those guys are sticking around, most notably Rick Brunson, and we'll discuss them for a bit as well in this video, but mainly right now, what we're seeing is the Knicks having made their most recent move, and that is for this guy right here, as multiple sources revealed a huge Knicks update, as Frank Isola was the first to announce the Knicks and Mike Brown are closing in on a deal with Clippers assistant coach Brendan O'Connor, according to a source. O'Connor worked as a Knicks assistant under Larry Brown and has close ties to Knicks executive William Wesley. While on top of that, Stephen Bondy mentioned that Brendan O'Connor is close to joining the Knicks coaching staff. His title will be an assistant, not associate head coach, and O'Connor will serve as the team's defensive coordinator, a source has told the New York Post. Now, Brendan O'Connor is now this New York Knicks team's defensive coordinator. O'Connor has worked under Doc Rivers and Ty Lue, both two guys who do put an emphasis on defense in their coaching, and on top of that, are just two of the better coaches. Well, Doc Rivers a little less so, but Tyronn Lue is one of the better coaches and more respected coaches in the NBA, and there is a reason why Doc Rivers has gotten a ton of jobs throughout his NBA career, or NBA coaching career, I should say. He also had his own NBA playing career, but you know the deal. That's not the point of this. Look, at the end of the day, the Knicks have added a new coach to their team in Brendan O'Connor, a very, very, very well-respected NBA defensive mind who is going to help this team's defense. Obviously, when the Knicks fired head coach Tom Thibodeau and moved forwards with Mike Brown, it was clear they were shifting to a more offensive focus. My guy Jeff Campbell from a few different Knicks outlets you could find him at, one of them being Knicks Fan TV, did mention the Knicks have shifted their identity after hiring Mike Brown. The goal will be to score 125 points a night and play situationally good defense. There will be nights where fans are frustrated, but to him, this was clearly their plan, and Jeff's absolutely right about that. I love Jeff. He's a great friend of mine. We worked at Daily Knicks together for a few years before I started doing Knicks Digest, and look, frankly, he's absolutely right on this. And the Knicks, they needed to add more defense because, let's face it, as good as Mike Brown is as a head coach, he does have some blind spots as a coach, specifically on the defensive end of things, with some defensive decision-making and the focus on defense. So having Brendan O'Connor in there as the team's defensive coordinator shows that the Knicks are actually going to use a defensive coordinator, so Mike Brown will not be focused on that end of the court as much, and the Knicks will have their own guy for that. Tom Thibodeau refused to hire coordinators for this team, and I think that was one of the downfalls of him. He should have had an offensive coordinator. His defensive sets, though they get beaten sometimes, he made good defensive adjustments. And if he had hired Mike Brown as an offensive coordinator halfway through the season when Brown got fired, Thibodeau might still have a job right now. But he doesn't. At the end of the day, now this is Mike Brown's team, and he'll be making the decisions. And the Knicks, you do now not worry about the offense as much as you worry about the defense. The Knicks do have individually good defensive players like Mikal Bridges, like OG Anunoby, Deuce McBride, Mitchell Robinson, and honestly, I don't know why I listed Mitch last. He might be the most important defender out of all of them. But look, when it comes down to it, the Knicks have individually good defensive players, but also their two best players are Karl-Anthony Towns and Jalen Brunson, two guys who are not very good defenders, and that's why this team had to make an offensive focus, and they did that. But now it's about playing good enough defense to have an elite offense, and that's the big thing we have to look at here. O'Connor, his first year in the NBA was 2005-2006 season with the Knicks. 20 years later, he's back with the Knicks. After that, he went to Sacramento for a year, took some time out of the NBA, and then in 2013-14 was with the Clippers up until this last season. O'Connor has stuck around through multiple head coaches, and that's because he's so well respected around there. They trusted how good of a coach he is and that he belongs on an NBA bench, and O'Connor now joins the Knicks where he gets a big role as the defensive coordinator. So it is, in a way, a promotion, even though he's not the associate head coach, because now he gets to run his team's defense. Not Tyronn Lue who's running the defense. It's now Brendan O'Connor running the Knicks defense. So whenever we see a lot of Knicks defensive schemes, obviously Mike Brown gets credit for it, but so does Brendan O'Connor, something we need to talk about. And State from Harlem also mentioned that the Knicks are finalizing a deal with O'Connor to be their top defensive assistant under Brown. He went to St. Anselm College And then his NBA coaching experience was really 2013 to the present with the Clippers, an assistant to Doc Rivers and Tyronn Lue. He also spent a year with the Brooklyn Nets as an assistant to PJ Carlesimo. And 2000 to 2005, he was with the Pistons as an assistant with George Irvine and Larry Brown. Won the 2004 title with the Pistons, and then was on Larry Brown's staff for a year as well in 2005-06 season when Brown coached the Knicks. Obviously, the Knicks were not good that year. The roster was terrible. James Dolan was in the way, all that stuff. But now, O'Connor rejoins the Knicks, and it's a completely different team than it was 20 years ago, obviously, because there's literally 2 players in the NBA from when O'Connor was last coaching the Knicks. That's LeBron James, obviously, and Chris Paul. Outside of them, no one else is there. And it is interesting that O'Connor leaves right after Chris Paul signs. I'm not saying there's like some beef or anything like that. I'm just saying it's interesting considering that Chris Paul did have O'Connor as a coach, and he would have been that guy still carrying over. But it is what it is, and it's good for the Knicks because I like O'Connor as a hire. I think it's good to have a defensive coordinator. I think NBA coaches should have coordinators on offense and defense the way that NFL coaches do. I think just to spread out a bit of the responsibility is going to be helpful for everyone involved, and so the head coach can focus on everything. And because when you're the head coach, you're also the boss of a bunch of assistant coaches. There's so much to worry about that when you start to spread the wealth and still be able to make the final call, I do think it's a good idea for Mike Brown and the team, especially Brown, as I said, a coach with blind spots. Now, it's good to see all that go down. It's very nice to see how this is all working. And just taking a look at what Ian Begley said, O'Connor, a longtime assistant coach, has a strong defensive acumen. He's worked for the Clippers under both Tyronn Lue and Doc Rivers. He will be Brown's top assistant on defense. The Knicks have been looking to add 2 coaches to Brown's staff, and their next hire will presumably be Brown's associate head coach. So stay tuned for that one, while also Brown will keep some of the coaches from Tom Thibodeau's staff, including Darren Erman, Mark Bryant, which fans are excited about. He's their big man coach. Maurice Cheeks, which fans are excited about, and actually calling for him to get a chance to become the team's head coach. And then Rick Brunson and Jordan Brink as well will stick around. New York has been denied permission to speak to several assistant coaches the club had interest in. The Knicks were in touch with Pablo Prigioni for a top assistant spot, but Prigioni decided to stay in Minnesota, which was a bit surprising considering he's not the associate head coach there. But if he likes the situation, why leave? I totally get it from Prigioni's standpoint, and that's completely fine. It sucks because we would have loved to have Pablo back, but it is what it is. When it all comes down to it, these are all good moves for this Knicks team. Now, on top of that, just a little tidbit that I did want to add into things is I recently did a video talking about how NBA 2K disrespected Jalen Brunson by making him a 93 when guys like Donovan Mitchell. Devonavin? Who the hell's Devonavin? Donovan Mitchell, Anthony Edwards, and Victor Wembanyama were all rated above him. Edwards, I do get a little bit of his popularity contest. I cannot speak right now. But at the same time, what you also see is guys like Donovan Mitchell and Victor Wembanyama, who I don't believe have earned it. However, the NBA.com has thought otherwise, as the top 10 players in the East that they ranked were Giannis at number 1 and Jalen Brunson at number 2. Following that up, we also saw Donovan Mitchell 3, Pablo, now I'm thinking of Pablo Prigioni. I can't speak right now, guys. Paolo Banchero, Cade Cunningham, Joel Embiid, Evan Mobley, Jalen Brown, Karl-Anthony Towns, and Trae Young. So the Knicks, if you're counting, yes, they are one of 2 teams to have 2 players in the top 10, the other being the Cleveland Cavaliers, who have 3 and 7, while the Knicks have 2 and 9, and showing that these 2 are the 2 best teams in the Eastern Conference, if we're being fair. But Giannis is definitely the best player in the East still. We'll see what all happens with that. It's just a cool thing to add onto this video, and also just a little shout out to Jalen Brunson right here from NBA University. 4 players in 2024-25 scored 70% of their field goals made on unassisted buckets. Shea, who scored at 76.2% and shot 56.9% as effective field goal percentage. James Harden, who shot 73.8% with 50.1% from that field. Trae Young, who shot 71% for 49%, and then Jalen Brunson, who shot 70% for 55%, the second highest mark on the lowest attempts out of those guys. But with Mike Brown now on this team, we likely won't see that again. Just want to throw that in at the end of that video in case anyone was interested. Hope you guys enjoyed. Like this video, subscribe, turn on post notifications. Have a great day. Go Knicks.